So my name is Bruce Kogut. I'm the director of a center over at the business school called the Sanford C. Bernstein and Company. It has a full official name, Center for Leadership and Ethics. And I'm joined here with Olivia Schum, who's in the back here, who's the administrative director. We usually put on an occasional event for the faculty and staff over at the business school and also across the university. But usually we try to keep it small, intimate, and the discussions have been on various things such as the climate impact has been one, on short-termism, about lying in research, kind of using bad data, stuff in privacy. This topic today kind of got away with us a little bit. We experienced this once before. The conference, we actually ran a conference a few years ago. I think Howard Rosenthal, who's part of that first conference, was there, and the conference was called Preventing the Next Crisis. The only thing, this was December 2008, and we had already assumed we had gone through that crisis, unaware that we had another 2 years more to go until that crisis came to some stabilization. I seem to have done the same thing again in terms of being a bad forecaster, I guess. So we wrote before this conference, for this idea of doing this, that we were going to discuss, I said, can Humpty Dumpty be put back together again? And I said they will analyze the U.S. election results and its implications for the future and how to interpret the patterns, et cetera. And I will confess, to that moment, I did not think we would be talking about a victory by President to be Trump, which is, since we're on film, is a fine outcome, of course, but nevertheless a surprising outcome for us. So we're kind of lucky to have gotten ahead of time some of the best people in this business of looking at forecasting, looking at election results, trying to figure out what actually happened. And I'll let David Park do the introductions on this. David Park is a colleague who got his PhD here in political science, wrote an excellent book with Andrew Gelman on Red State, Blue State. Went into business for a few years. He started a few companies in the technology area and then came back to the university recently, and he's the special assistant, you just told me.
Dean of Strategic Initiatives.
Strategic Initiatives in the areas of arts and sciences, which means that David in some sense is a scientist who also puts together people and makes things happen. So he's the appropriate person to have this conversation. So I want to say one last thing. We have people from from across the university in different departments on this. It's nice to see that. Sometimes people often get, particularly in the journalism school, I think they look over at the Uris Hall and say, well, that's the business school. They must be very monolithic in terms of their politics. And I want to assure you that actually there's a wide diversity of politics in the school, but probably wider than you find elsewhere in other departments. And we kind of like that, to have that diversity in terms of political discussion. And it's good to bring that here to this audience as well. You just feel free to speak up your minds and ask the questions you want, but we'll probably get, I hope so, a wide diversity of opinions tonight. Thank you, David. I'll turn this over to you.
Absolutely.